I've decided to film this video while it's broad daylight outside so I don't get as scared, but I can almost promise you as soon as it's pitch black outside I'm going to curl up into a ball, go under my sheets and cry myself to sleep. So a couple of days ago I put on my community tab thing what you guys wanted to see next. I gave you 3 options and AskReddit won by a landslide, so by your demand I'm giving you more AskReddit. This time I'm reading responses to what is your most disturbing, scary or creepy real story, because I just love scaring the absolute living daylights out of myself. As always, if you like this video then please like, comment, subscribe. It helps me out a bunch and I genuinely appreciate it. Also, follow my Twitter. I'm trying to be as active as I can on there, so if you want to see what goes on in my mind while I'm not recording videos, go over there. I had awesome parents who let me sleep in the living room on weekend nights when I was very young because my sister was a light sleeper and I could stay up until dawn. But of course, I always end up sleeping on the couch because a nick at night made me tired. So, one night I wake up to a prickly feeling. Like an instinct. Just bolted into a sitting position and stared out the front window. We lived in rural Georgia, so you can imagine the magnitude of trees. In perfect light cast from the moon, I see a silhouette of someone in this fucking tree. The family dog dashes to the window and is snarling into the glass. Terrified, I run into my parents' room and try to explain to my parents that there is a strange person outside. Dad grabs something defensive and darts outside with the dogs to beat the wax off the hothead. I tremble in Mum's arms until Dad comes home and says how he saw no one and to go to bed. I decide to sleep in my regular bedroom. I fill my sister in as to what happened. Dad is making irregular rounds the house with a cup of coffee. We're all still and I finally think I can sleep. Nope. I notice the man outside my window. From what I can see in the moonlight, he gives me a shush signal and runs away. Just turns around to run a straight line away. I swear I couldn't stop crying for what felt like hours. My house sits farther back in the lot than most other houses. It's a strange layout as well. The sidewalk runs the length of the living room and ends at the front porch, which lets into the living room. Large windows that do not open allow great light into the living room, but at the cost of no privacy. The rest of my family was on vacation and having the house to myself, I decided I would get smashed. Well, I pass out on the couch in the living room at about 9, when I realised I was too scared to walk back up to my room. The couch is right underneath these big windows. I woke up suddenly, not knowing why. I had a severe case of the chills and I could not figure out why. Then the banging started. It came from right above me. I did not move, but I opened my eyes and looked up at the window. Someone was standing there pounding on the glass. Without moving, I looked at the cable box. It was about 3 in the morning. The banging continues, then it stopped suddenly, but I still did not move. Suddenly, it commences again, coming from 2 different directions now. Someone is banging on the window and another person is banging on the front door. They kept doing it, would not go away. Finally, after about 40 minutes, they quit. It was the most terrifying event I can recall at the moment. It made me a nervous wreck after that. Okay, so this happened to me last summer when I was back at my parents' house during the holidays. It was around 3 AM and I was in my room on my computer when I got a call from my sister. Now that was already a little bit weird since my sister's room is just down the hallway from mine and she could have just came in my room. I went to pick up and the call ended just as soon as I reached my phone. I figured that she wanted to speak with me, so I got up and went to her room. As soon as I reached her door, she started screaming that someone was in her room with her, so I busted in and of course nobody was there. After she stopped crying, she told me that she woke up and saw a dark shadow just centimetres away from her face, and that's when she screamed. So I told her that she called me. She told me that her phone is not in her room and that she was sleeping. Sure enough, her phone is actually downstairs in her purse. The weird part is that I have the log of her call on my phone, but she doesn't. Never managed to explain this one. My mother told me this story not too long ago, but it happened about 10 years ago now. When my cousin was 17, 18 years old, she was in a car crash and had died a couple of weeks later in the hospital. She was really close to my dad's sister, in brackets, our aunt, and used to babysit her kids who were no more older than 4 years old at the time. Our aunt's house was under construction just before she passed and it continued on after she passed away. One day my aunt got a phone call while she was at work from one of the construction workers complaining about a teenage girl who keeps showing up around the house and walking around, and that she shows up a number of times during the weeks, and it has been happening for a couple of weeks. My aunt asked for a description of the girl to see if she knows her from around the neighbourhood, and sure enough, the description perfectly matches my cousin who died a few weeks before. Long brown hair, red baseball cap, denim dungarees with a white jacket. When my aunt got home, she showed them a picture of my cousin and they all agreed that that was the girl they'd seen walking around the site. This story really freaked me out when I heard it because our family was never one to believe in anything paranormal or have anything paranormal happen to them before. When I was in high school, I had a really good friend who lived next door to a house that was always up for sale. People would move out in the middle of the night without a word, and it hadn't had the same owner for more than 6 months straight for a couple of years. One night we were really bored and he suggested we go explore the house next door since it had been empty for a while. We go around the back and there's a dog door that you can crawl through. He unlocks the door and lets me in. The house itself is really unremarkable. It looked like it was built in maybe the 1950s and was a craftsman style house in an older, nicer part of town. The kitchen had a really nice built-in breakfast table set against a picture window. The house's electricity was off, but you could still see the street light through the window. My friends and I sit down on the floor across from this table and are just hanging out talking. Why? Who knows? All of a sudden my friend screams, and in that instant my vision goes black. But it wasn't that I just couldn't see. My body was engulfed in this sickly coldness from head to toe. I started screaming and I feel my friend's hand grabbing mine and pulling me in some direction forcefully. My vision slowly comes back and I start to warm up when I realise that we're outside under a streetlight. It was December and I should have been much warmer inside of that house. Finally, I look at my friend and he looks scared. I'm really confused and kind of panicked myself, and I finally ask him what happened. He says that as I was talking, a black thing, this figure that was all black and only had the vague shape of a girl, crawled from under the table and sat on top of me. Apparently I started groping around with my eyes wide open like I couldn't see, and he was so freaked out that he pulled me out of the house. We're still friends and we bring it up every now and then, but the story itself never changes and it still sends chills down my spine. To this day, I've never felt such blackness or coldness in my life. It was palpable, almost sticky. For a couple of days afterwards, I couldn't shake this unsettling feeling and I could never walk past that house again. When we first moved into the house I grew up in, I used to hear things calling my name from the opposite end of the house. Like I would be in my room playing with Legos or something and I would hear my dad call my name from his room. So I'd go into my parents' bedroom and ask them what they wanted, and they'd always tell me that they never called my name. Being a little kid, I honestly started to think that they were playing a joke on me, because this happened about once every couple of days. Well, one night it happened and I went to ask them what they wanted like always, but right as I stepped into their room I heard my mum's voice calling me from the living room, which is all the way on the other side of the house. It was at that exact point I knew no one was tricking me, because I was looking at both my parents sitting in front of me. I kinda kept this to myself until my brother was diagnosed with partial narcolepsy. One of the symptoms of narcolepsy is apparently oral hallucinations, so I thought I maybe had it too. Went and got myself checked, completely fine, so I had no idea what was calling my name all those years, and I still hear it at night whenever I come visit and stay over. About a month ago I went over to my girlfriend's house, except I felt really uneasy when I went into the living room. Turns out they replaced a china cabinet with one of her grandmothers who passed away a few months back. Her grandmother was bedridden in the hospital and I'd never gotten to meet her. I felt uneasy the whole time. Being around her grandmother's furniture made me so anxious and almost sad. When I told her, she said it was probably nothing. She went to the bathroom and I went over to the cabinet. It was about 6 feet tall, dark wood. It had 2 doors on the side and glass up front, and in the back was a mirror. I was looking at the teacups and small baby dolls when I could swear I saw someone in the mirror behind me, just a silhouette. I called out to my girlfriend, but as I did, I heard a screech from the bathroom. I started pounding on the door and it opens. She was sitting on the floor, crying. She said she saw someone in the bathroom mirror. We booked it out of our house. No shoes, no jacket, nothing, and right to my car. I drove for an hour or so with no destination. When I returned to her house, her mum was sitting on the doorstep. She said she kept seeing shadows move. I will go out of my way to make things like this happen. Someone claims their house is haunted. I want to see. Someone thinks they saw a skinwalker. My friends are looking. I've never found anything. But this was something else. A couple of friends and I were at the annual fair held at the local park one year. Being 14-year-old girls, we thought we would be cool and separate from the large crowd at the fair by walking a rather long trail that starts at the fairgrounds and travels on for a few miles. Well, it was late in the evening and the lighting was bad. We were sitting at the mouth of a tunnel which sat at the top of a secluded hill when a lady with a baby approached us. She asked us if we knew a man who was standing at the bottom of the hill near a bench looking in our general direction. We told her we didn't, and her response was, "Well, he's been following you for a while. I don't know what he's up to, but you should be careful." Needless to say, we hightailed back to the fair. I was 16 and woke up in the middle of the night to seeing my clothes being rustled in my doorway. In brackets, after washing my clothes, I like to hang dry them on my door frame. I noticed some really grey, veiny looking legs, and then I see these really long pointed sticks moving through my clothes. It took me a second, but my sleepy eyes adjusted to see one of the most grotesque, demon looking motherfuckers I had ever seen. He was extremely skinny and had a distended stomach. His skin was grey and veiny, and those long sticks were his fingers. His chin was long, his eyes had no lids on them, and they were unusually big. His tiny mouth was in a pucker and moved like he was eating an imaginary lollipop. His hunchback looked as though it tore out of the strange hospital gown he was wearing. He just stared at me, and I tried to scream my grandmother awake who was sharing a room with me for the weekend. He wouldn't stop staring, and I stared back and tried to shake my grandmother awake. I started noticing other things about him, like how large and cone-like his head was, and how hairless and shriveled he looked as he stood still, surprised I could see him. My grandmother woke up, looked towards the door, and he was gone. In the weeks leading to this encounter, I had been experiencing strange things in my house, like my bedroom door slamming and locking on its own. One night I woke up to what felt like several hands touching my feet and legs, and horrible nightmares. After the experience with this strange grey man, I told my parents, and they had my room exorcised. I don't know if an exorcism really made those horrible things stop, or gave me peace of mind from things I was manifesting myself. All I know is I don't experience those things anymore and I'll never sleep with a door open again. But those stories have really fucked my head up. I feel like I say this every time I read scary stories, but I will not be sleeping for minimum a week at this point, which isn't great because I've got a very busy week ahead of me. I hope my sleep loss is not for nothing, so if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe. It helps me out a bunch and I really genuinely appreciate it. Something I do want to say though is that in around 2-3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, I'm not too sure yet, I've got my first non-Reddit video coming out for the first time in like 2 months. I think I've been doing Reddit videos for 2 months now. So yeah, keep your eye out for that and I will see you whenever I next see you.